my calculations are correct, when this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
They're here.
Do you really think you have a chance against us, Mr. Cowboy?
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
It's showtime.
Right, welcome everybody to another episode of the VHS Strikes Back. I'm one of your hosts, Chris, and my co-host and very good friend is Dave.
Hey there, Chris, and hello to our listeners out there. Welcome to the VHS Strikes Back, the show where we dust off the old video player and go on a nostalgic journey to look at the good and the bad movies of yesteryear. Now, Chris, what are we going to review this week?
Well, Dave, we are going to review a Patreon pick by our good friend Jack. It's a 1989 movie. It's not an adaptation, like I said last week, Dave. It is an adaptation, if I actually read what was on the screen. This is Raiders of the Lost Ark, the adaptation. A fan-made movie, and yeah, unbelievable. So, Dave, had you even heard of this movie at all?
I had not. What I'd seen is the... do you remember in lockdown, The Princess Bride? Did you ever see that when you had a bunch of Hollywood celebrities? It wasn't quite the misfire that the Gal Gadot Imagine thing was.
God. But what, when you wanted us to sing it?
Yeah, yeah, me, yeah. I'm sure that does that exist somewhere? In the digital ether?
Well, like Chip Daniels? No, Dave, it does not.
Oh, I would love. I just wish I'd have had the foresight to take a copy of that Chip Daniels.
It's the worst thing I've ever done in my life.
Let's talk about Man United. In fact, yeah, let's talk about Man United now.
No, let's not, Dave. Can we concentrate on the movie, please? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, talking about cheap knockoffs. But so yeah, I'd heard of the Princess Bride one, and when I watched that, it was quite funny. You know, again, everyone's locked down, so everyone's doing filming themselves, and so it switches between, you know, there's different actors playing the same character and whatever. And I thought there was a charm to that, and I thought it was quite good. But no, I hadn't heard about it. Again, I have a different relationship with this kind of, let's call it the franchise. Let's say this is part of the Raiders of the Lost Ark franchise, because I absolutely fucking love it. I remember watching that first one. I was in Spain. It was probably Benidorm, and I remember when you used to walk around and you'd have these bars, and then they were showing all the latest fucking pirate videos. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Yes.
And I remember this guy. He was advertising Raiders of the Lost Ark. Now, I didn't know what it was, but my dad obviously, you know, had heard about it and thought that I might like it. So we kept going back to this bar, and he couldn't get it working and whatever, but eventually he put it on, and I just thought it was the best thing ever. And you know, again, my memory's a bit hazy with it. It's a long fucking time ago now. Ultimately, it's nearly half a fucking century ago. But so, yeah, it would have been just like a dodgy fucking tiny TV. And I remember the video quality wasn't that great. But again, just that magical moment. So I've loved this whole franchise. So I was quite excited when Jack told me about it. So, all right, this will be cool, won't it? So I was quite into it. And the fact that this is a shot-for-shot remake of a classic movie that I love, then I knew I would... you know, going in, I would find a charm to it, whereas you hated it. So, yep. As I was watching it, I was thinking, oh, wow, this is like, you know, it's like watching a tribute band of a band that you hate. So I'm more curious. I have my own opinions, of course, but I am more curious about how you found watching it. And had you heard about this before as well?
No, never. And obviously I didn't, because I fucking said it wrong last week, Dave, as well. No, yeah. Never heard of it. But then when you actually said the magic words was, there's a documentary and it's on Prime, readily available if you've got Prime Video, I was like, oh, this is giving me Comics in Motion throwback, but the Fantastic Four, literally the low budget, the low budget, Jesus, Dave, I can't even say it.
On fire.
Yeah, that one as well. But the low budget movie that was basically just to keep the franchise going because the ownership when it was £1 million or $1 million movie. But then when you watch the actual things, it's a terrible movie. But then as soon as you watch the documentary, you're like, oh, I've got a level of respect for these people for what they did, what it did for the careers, good and bad. And that was a really, really great. It's a whole package. And I would say before we get into it, there's two ways to look at this. Like, I watched the documentary after I watched the movie, and I think you watched it whilst you're watching the movie, sort of in sync with it. However, it's got to be something. If you're going to put yourself through this movie, I also think that the context of the documentary just makes everything make sense, if that's what I mean. If you watch that as a single movie, you would be like, oh, what the fuck's this? It's a stitch-up. It is the year of the stitch-up. Jack has done his job. But then you watch the documentary, and I think it just fleshes out everything. And the documentary's an hour and a half. It's a long documentary, but it's definitely worth it. Definitely worth it. So I would say that before we get into anything else, that is a must-watch for this week. You've got a lot of watches, nearly 3 hours worth of TV to watch this. But it's a big commitment, but I would recommend watching it either before or after, whichever way suits you.
And I'm going to save what I think about that, about which order might be the optimum order. But I'll save that for our main review. So, Chris, shall we get into our fancy new trailer format?
Yes. Yes.
In a world where copyright is a suggestion and kids in Mississippi had more passion than budget,
comes the greatest homemade film ever shot over 7 summers. 2 VHS camcorders and 1 dangerously flammable basement.
it's Raiders of the Lost Ark, the Adaptation, or as we like to call it, Indy and the DIY of Doom.
Forget Harrison Ford. Meet Strompolos, the only Indiana Jones who survived snakes, Nazis, and puberty in the same movie.
Armed with nothing but his mom's ironing board and a set piece and a dog that refused to act.
These lads recreated every single scene from Spielberg classic, except the flying wing explosion, which is fair enough, really.
Shot for shot, frame for frame, bad wig fedora.
What, me?
You've created a rod for your own back by trying
I have
to do
now.
a
Different voices. I know. I fucking know. Wait for this next one. You've got melting faces made of Play-Doh, fight scenes that look like Year 9 drama class, and a love story that's, well, mostly awkward staring.
Next week, Chris is cancelled. but you know what? It's glorious. It's VHS gold. It's the definition of don't try this at home, which they obviously did.
Before TikTok, before YouTube, before content creator meant anything, there were 3 kids, a copy of Raiders, way too much free time.
Forget budget constraints. Their biggest challenge? Puberty continuity errors.
I got it. One scene, he's 11. Next scene, he's shaving. It's like Boyhood, but with whips and Nazi-facing no, fucking hell, Dave, right? Yeah. But with whips and Nazi face melting.
From the studio that brought you absolutely nothing, and the director who brought you some VHS tapes, probably still in his garage,
comes a film so passionate, even Steven Spielberg gave it a nod, and his lawyers gave it a stern warning.
Red Shoe Diaries.
David Duchovny.
Coming soon to a VHS tape held together with masking tape, melted ambition, and a lot of sweat.
And yes, the boulder is a big papier-mâché beach ball. What more do you want?
In 1936, American archaeologist Indiana Jones recovers a golden idol from a booby-trapped Peruvian temple. Rival archaeologist René Belloc corners him and steals the idol. Jones escapes in a waiting float plane. Now, Chris, what do you reckon to the opening of this movie?
Well, Dave, it's bizarre. So this movie is bizarre. Like I say, I watched the movie first and then watched the documentary. It's poorly shot. If you just literally put this on, you'd be like, what the hell is this whole movie we're watching? Like, this is just like a bunch of kids play acting, being, characters. However, the music and this cut that is available now, I think like the music works. There's something about it and I can't work out why. I just think it's brilliant. I think and I hate Raiders of the Lost Ark. I hate, Harrison Ford. I hate him, but I just think he's fucking rubbish. As I always say, I have a real hate for him, but I don't know why. I'd say that I've just watched the new Captain America. Fuck me, that's a terrible movie. But anyway, it's just something about this together that is stupidly good, and I don't understand why. And I cannot stand Raid, as I say. I don't get it. I don't understand it. But I actually quite enjoyed it, Dave. So I don't know whether Jack was trying to stitch me again, or both of us, not just me, both of us. I don't think it's worked this time. Watching the documentary has just cemented it for me. The whole package is unbelievable.
You have knocked me out here. I can't tell. Is this an Austin Powers switcheroo where you actually get to the end of the episode and like, oh yeah, no, just joking. Fucking hated every second.
No, it's not. Honestly, it's not. I really, really was like thinking of the era that it was made. From 82 for 7 summers, they made parts of this movie, as they grew and everything. You're right. Like the continuity, there just isn't a continuity. Honestly, the way they've shot it and the budget of literally zero, I was like, yeah, this is unbelievable. Like, just yeah. It's bad. It's a bad movie, but I just found like I didn't hate it. And yeah, bizarre. And I can't tell you why. I cannot tell you why, because really it should be going, this is fucking shit. Because it is. But I think finding these kids trying to do this movie is just bizarre. And dedication on another level, to be honest.
So I was thinking about this, and we're going to be a little bit all over, because basically it's a shot-for-shot remake of the Raiders of the Lost Ark. So if you want to know what we think of the original film, we've got an episode of that. Go and listen to that one. But for this, I have to say to you, I actually found it hard watch initially. And I got about half an hour in, and I had to switch to the documentary because this is what's so bizarre about this, but I'm really intrigued about it now. So I love the original movie, and watching this, there was part of me thinking, well, this is cool. These kids, these young kids, and obviously it's old sort of guerrilla shooting, isn't it? It's just taking out a camcorder, but the old fucking Betamax style, the wobbly, the actual VHS, you forget, don't you? We love the movies, but the actual quality of the tapes was fucking horrendous. So I found it really hard. Now, when I switched to the documentary and I found out about all the backstory, for me, I actually think I stumbled across the optimum way to watch it, because I just thought watching the documentary, really enjoyed it. I didn't think it was quite as good a documentary as the Doomed one, but it helps you find out more about these kids, about their lives, and then where their lives took them. I'm sure we'll get more into those individual people as we go on, but yeah, switching to the documentary, it meant when I came back to watch the movie, I enjoyed it a lot more. And it made a lot more sense, of course, when they got to the plane scene.
Yeah.
They're all about 50-odd. And, otherwise I'd have just been completely thrown. It's like, oh, why is the quality so vastly different? But yeah, I'm going to theorize. One of the reasons, not just you, but I think when this was originally shot, it was shown a bit in a film festival. Someone got hold of it. I think you see in the documentary, Eli Roth was a big fan of it as well. I think it taps into something inside us, which takes you back to being a kid. Now, both you and I have our fucking ADHD diagnosis, and there is no way we would have had the staying power that these kids have had to make this movie, you know, through their teen years, basically. So from my side, I know there's definitely an admiration, but again, it just takes you back, and that idea that if you had a camcorder and you just thought, hey, you know what, let's make this movie, and how would we do that? You know, these aren't people who've gone off to study cinematography or scripting or sound design or anything. And I think just the fact that they've just had a go, and actually, you know, a lot of the scenes are quite good. I want to get into some of the dangerous shit as well in a bit.
Yeah.
I've talked for a while there, but yeah, I think that it just taps into something inside us which takes us back to being a kid and imagining ourselves being these kids trying to make this movie.
Yeah, and you know what? I think you're right. I think that's probably the admiration of, like, in my head, I would love to have done something like this, but the reality is, 10 minutes in, wrote a script on the back of a fucking back of a book somewhere from school. I'd probably be like, "Oh, what's that over there? Oh, football. Oh yeah, I'm coming out." There's no, I mean, you know, even having a camera. I think my granddad had a camera, but just the idea of doing something like that really intrigues me. And something that, because we're both like creative, aren't we? And you're like, you want to create things, or I'm proper extrovert, probably more than most people at time.
Yeah.
And I love putting myself out there, even good or bad, but also knowing that I need a you, basically. The only way we would have done this as kids is if we were friends as kids, and that's the only reason, because you're so good at the planning and getting it together and everything, whereas I'm like, I would have just literally jumped out of a plane somewhere, like you always say, and it's like, yeah, you've got no idea what you're doing here. Yeah, but I've already shot the fight scenes, we're ready. Yeah, but we've not even put a script together. How are we going to do this? So I think if we were together when we were younger, there's a chance we could have done it.
One of yours would have been, you've not labelled the tapes.
Yeah. Red Shoe Diary. Yeah, you mentioned it before. Wet Nurses 2. Yeah. Hey, you fucking taped over Wet Nurses 2 right at the moment. What are you doing? Yeah. Oh, that's what it is, isn't it?
Yeah, they have done well, but I mean, although I have the admiration, the fact that they started in 1982 and I would say paused, because, you know, they paused for a number of years before they did the plane scene, but it went till 1989, and I kind of think, even though I have the admiration, there's no way I'd have had the staying power. There's no way I'd have stuck the whole project out. But also, you know, when you get to like 15, 16, there's lots of other things to be interested in that are not remakes of Indiana Jones movies.
Yeah, that's true. And I think you said about the ADHD thing, I think this is to do with the ADHD, because if you become obsessed with something, and we do, you know, with this ADHD, you can have these obsessions. I do. You have like a month where, you know, 1 minute I want to be a cage fighter, the next minute I want to fucking tour the world, you know, singing again or whatever, you know, something stupid. And you have to, and then it's like, what am I doing? You wake up and go, nah, I don't want to do that. Don't want to do that. Or you want to be, you know, voiceover, whatever you want to do. You know, I've been through all these daft things through my life, but I haven't got the staying power. But then there's certain things in your life where they're the constant, they're your obsessions. Like we talked about my obsession with Vegas, haven't we? You know, like it's something that's just since 2012. It's just something I think about all the time. Whether there's a point I stop, I don't know. However, Indiana Jones was obviously the obsession for these guys, and it's just gone and gone and gone, hasn't it? And I think if you're passionate about making movies and stuff like that, I can understand it. It's something that they're into, but like, and you watch the documentary, there is a little bit of a head start. The camera and that was used is a TV production camera in it, because his mum was some TV reporter, wasn't she, and everything and all that. So you watch the documentary, and she was a news anchor as well. So you watch the documentary, and I think that's what adds to it, because when I watched this, the scenes that are shot in 2014, however they were shot, like the fighting scene, which is against usually in the real films, Bomber out of Alvida, you know, Pat Roach. And I'm like, how is this looking so good? But the other scenes look like it's had Vaseline, and on the screen it's been fucking, you know, it's been through about 15 different video players where people have passed on the copy and all this. And then then when I watched the documentary, it's like, no, because they wanted to film that scene, but they never had any budget or know-how how to film the plane scene, and everyone was asking them, and that's like what the documentary centres around, doesn't it? So I think when I watched the documentary, I was like, oh, right. And that made the film more appealing to me then, because they'd had the chance to go back and reshoot that. But I'm with you. There is a way of watching this, and maybe yours is the right way. Watch it 10, 15 minutes ago. Oh, what is this? Watch the documentary, and then I think you appreciate everything. You're probably right. But watching at the end, it real sort of the Kaiser Soze moment, all the board came into play then. I was like, oh, right, that makes sense. So, yeah, I think it's just a fascinating world and story and everything, like of these friends basically for years, and I really think it's just really interesting for me, and that's something that for something like this I could usually walk away and go, yeah, but he really got me. I think I just really found it fascinating.
Again, stumped. You've really thrown me there. I was expecting you to hate every minute of this, but I'm slightly amused by the fact you just thought, oh, why does this look much better? Not the fact that, why is Indiana Jones no longer a 12-year-old boy?
Didn't even see him.
He's a 50-year-old bloke.
I swear to you, I did not even notice, because he's got his like fedora hat on. I didn't even notice. I swear to God, I just went with the story, Dave. You know what I mean? To be honest, I think he's a better actor than Harrison Ford, but there you go. I've just been a bitch now. I've just been a bitch, but there you go.
But I think that one of the slightly negative things, I feel a bit sad, and I did go to the guy's website, but you're gonna have the two main guys, Chris, and I can't remember what the other, I should have a look at it in a minute, but they both have their own merchandise stores separate.
Yeah.
And I think one of the slightly sad things is just the way their lives went, because there was obviously this passion, this dare I say, hyper focus on creating this movie, and to have the staying power. I mean, you're talking like all your holidays and everything, your summer holidays are taken up doing this project, and there must have been times where they were thinking, oh, fuck it, let's should we just do something else? Should we just go and ride our bikes? I was talking. Yeah. So I was talking to Ben, obviously our old co-host from the Chat Footy podcast, and saying how different it is now, and like how kids don't just fucking disappear for the day on their bikes. I've said it many times, but 80s parents were just asleep at the wheel. It's amazing Gen X even survived. But for these kids to have that staying power, but not really stay in the industry, not go on to create movies or be, a cameraman or something. They just all drifted apart as friends, which, let's face it, a lot of us do. There's very few people who stay friends with the same people who you were friends with when you were 12. But yeah, they just didn't take that passion for film. It kind of stopped with Raiders of the Lost Ark, I guess. And I just found that all a little bit sad. And the fact that they were slightly flawed characters as well, particularly, Chris, who's playing Indy. I didn't think he came across in the documentary very well at all.
Who's that? The filmmaker? Oh, Chris Stamble? Oh, the actual main character?
The guy who's playing
Indy. Yeah, I understand that. I think some of the things he said about, like, he was talking like joking at one point, and this isn't his character. He's talking about his like was his stepdad beating his mum up and all this, and he's just playing it off like it was nothing. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm a drunk alcoholic stepdad, and I'm like, that's not really anything you want to joke about, sort of thing. It's funny, I didn't really get that vibe on him. I just sort of went with the story. I felt like maybe playing Indy and the notoriety had gone to his head a bit, Dave. Maybe I could see that. I definitely could, and I think getting that validation from Spielberg when he was sort of, he come across this, didn't he? With the movie, and he said he wanted to meet him and everything. Maybe it's that. Maybe that sort of like validation. I don't know, because I think the power would go to your head when you've had that sort of, you've been chasing this dream, and then the person who created the character and directed it and everything is like praising you. So yeah, I'll have to watch some of it again because I didn't think he was a complete bell end. I think he was a bit up himself, but I didn't go, yeah, you know what I mean? That's interesting. That's interesting. I'll have to watch that again.
So Eric is the other guy, the
other guy, nice guy, yeah.
And he seemed to have like a decent job. You know, he was working for a games company or something, and he seemed to be the main sort of driving force. But like it was when they were going into when they were sort of later teenagers, and like Eric was infatuated with his girlfriend at the time, and Chris sort of stole his girlfriend effectively, not because he particularly liked her, just because he could, just to fuck around, like, you know, and being, you know, off his tits on fucking coke and whatever. It seemed to me that his life had taken a bit of a darker path for a while there.
Yeah, and I think like he's speaking to the parents as well, the stuff they had to go through. I mean, when they nearly fucking set the house on fire, I was like, and that scene, you know, with the fire on his back and everything, and it was like, yeah, they're not trained, and that guy's going, that guy's going, more, yeah, let's do it again. While the bottom of the house, the fucking cellar is literally on fire. This whole fucking that, and the woman, the other one, his mum's like going, yeah, well, my ex-partner had to shut it down. I'm like, yeah, because you wouldn't have had a fucking house left if they'd have carried on. I think he was actually right at that point. Brilliant.
And so I think I'm saying that, like, when I stopped was about half an hour in. So I can't remember if it was exactly 30 minutes or whatever. But I got through the fire scene before I switched to the documentary. I remember thinking, you know, because like I say, I was struggling a bit, but I remember getting to that scene where all the bar is on fire and stuff, and I'm like, fucking hell, that looks really dangerous. There looks to be a lot of fire there. And obviously, if it's, you know, if you've got professionals, you know, you've got people whose job it is to make sure these stunts and everything are safe. And then, you know, you've just got a studio and you've got all the fire extinguishers on standby. So when you're doing this shit in a movie, you know, professional movie setting, it's different from just some kids like setting each other on fire. Again, he comes back to the Gen X thing about kids in the 80s. And finally, that was when the mum, you know, put her foot down. It's like, right, you set each other on fire and then you were struggling to put it out. Right. Enough of that. That is the 80s parents line. You know, you fucking burnt someone to a crisp, and so put an end to it. And then it's like, yeah, but can we do it if we have supervision? Oh, go on then. Like you say, the guy who was supposed to be supervising them was like, no, we need more. Let's set this on. I have no idea how the fucking house didn't burn down at that point.
Exactly. I mean, I can imagine if I'd have done that. Fucking hell, Dave, I'd probably still have the scars now, and I'm sure you're the same. I mean, imagine as a parent, though, as well, flipping it. Like, Jordan had done that, and I'm like, yeah, I think we need to have a word here. This has got to stop. I'm sure you'd be the same with your kids. You'd be like, angry. Because it's okay having a documentary, like 40 years later, and saying how good it is and blah, blah, blah. But when until you've sort of made it, and there's that point where, you know, I watched someone, it's a complete different set. I watched someone the other week, well, this really famous racing driver, and he's a Scottish guy, went to America, really great life, and he comes back and he talks about his dad, and basically his first wages he went and bought something like when he was racing, he went and bought like a Ferrari, didn't have a house, didn't have anything, and his dad's like, what the hell are you? But then the next minute he becomes this massive person. But I know it's a bit of a weird comparison, but I mean, like, you know, where you listen to your kids sometimes and they're like, yeah, I'm going to do this, and I've had so many times where I probably said to probably not my dad, but my mum, like, I want to do this, and she's like, yeah, you do what you want or whatever, and it's like, yeah, we know within an hour you're onto something else. And I think sometimes it's great in hindsight going back and going, yeah, the film production of this thing, but I can imagine living in that. If you come down the stairs and your house is on fire, you'd be like, holy shit. You know, like, I always wanted to be a fireman. I've told the story of this before. I remember my nan and granddad. Nana goes to pick my granddad up from Procter & Gamble. He's on a 12-hour shift, and he'd done days, and he comes in, and they had a brand new lino in the kitchen, and Mr. I love fire, wanted to be a fireman and that, started lighting fucking kitchen, bro. Oh yeah, it melted the fucking kitchen floor, Dave. The brand new laid kitchen floor that had only just gone down a few days earlier. Then running round, gets a piece of it that I found, trying to cut it, made a pig's ear of it, Dave. I mean, my nana and granddad weren't like, my granddad was a very much laid back Irish, fucking, very laid back. And he just looked at it and went, what the fuck is that? And I was like, and if it had been me dad, I'd have probably got fucking right, left up, fucking lay in the fucking garden while it pissed down or something. But my granddad was quite forgiving, and I'm thinking, I need to do more things that I really want to get out, the rage or whatever I want to do with me nana and granddad's, because I didn't get a bollocking. But I remember, imagine I said to him, I want to be a fireman, and I was just testing out how to burn things. And they're like, I don't think so, get out or whatever. But then years later, you're a fireman going, and that started my career. Yeah, you can all look back and go, we always knew he was interested in fire, but we didn't know he was going to be an arsonist or a fireman, like one of them. But I can't explain. I'm probably going round the houses here, but I think like getting the families involved is a good thing. But there's no way they would have believed, what I'm getting to the point of, that this would have led to this, if that makes sense. They probably admire the kids' determination and focus and go, you know what, we were wrong. But living through that would have been a hell by the sounds of it for the parents. And there was marriages breaking up and everything, wasn't there?
Yeah, it did seem like, we're not psychologists, so not going to try, but you just wonder the fact that they all seem to come from broken homes. This was probably a bit of an escape for them. It was just stepping into a different character. And then, like I say, you've got to admire just the setting up of the scenes and the fact that they had no money, but they're like, right, we need to save up our pocket money or whatever they call it, our allowance, and then we'll buy some fucking Nazi uniforms or something. They've just over time accumulated enough money, and that's where you've got to admire it. The way the uniforms look and the sets that they've set up. Fucking loved it when they were in the alleyway as well, and someone rang the police and said they're doing something dodgy. Just that guerrilla tactic, so guerrilla shooting kind of thing. So I thought that was fantastic. And using in the movie, you've got the monkey. Well, obviously you've not got a monkey to hand, so they just use the dog. It is incredibly charming, a lot of it. And but yeah, for your parents, can you imagine those parents, the trajectory they were on those? So they'd have had through the 80s, so from 82 to 89, it's like, oh, fucking hell, they're off now. I don't know where they are. They're doing something. They're working on this little project. But it would have been a thing that they'd have discussed after, like say in the early 2000s. Do you remember when you used to, like every single summer, used to go off and try and recreate Raiders of the Lost Ark and stuff? Oh, yeah. God, I was done there. And then, through this film festival and this discovering of a whole new audience that allowed them to do this whole Kickstarter, it's just really interesting to think about how their lives would have gone, where, again, this was like a little project that's discarded as being kids, and then, you're kind of pretty much famous now because of this thing you did when you were kids.
Yeah. And ultimately, and you're right, and ultimately they've got their own film studio now, haven't they? Boulder Movies Productions or whatever it is. It's like, yeah, I can't really put into words, really. I think you're right. Like the broken home thing, everything else about it, maybe, and it's got to be the escapism. And he touched on that. You're right. It's the escapism of life, isn't it? If they were going through hell, and like Chris goes on about his, he says about his, stepdad being an alcoholic, beating his mum up and everything. And I thought that maybe you should have asked your mum first before sharing that on screen. But he just seemed to and he thought it was funny. And that guy's like, oh, you're joking, aren't you? He's like, no, I'm not joking. That was a bit of a naughty thing to say. I thought you at least get the permission of her. But I think like you were saying before, that whole plane scene and the fight and everything, and that guy's fighting with it. and the way they shoot it shot for shot is really good. You can tell the difference, can't you? I just find that it just feels really wholesome, and it feels like the whole town's involved on it. Like there's a whole community there. I mean, his first kiss ever was on screen. You know, it's like, and his mum talks about that. And you're like, you know, obviously, Dave, that's like director or, you know, creator's license maybe, but yeah, his first official kiss he's ever had in his life. He's doing this movie, so I think it's just coming of age stuff about this movie that is just really, really wholesome. I think watching it, it's like I say, it's an awful movie, but I really think you've got to watch it. I said it before, I'll say it again, that the documentary is a must to get the context of where this movie has come from, because it's really good.
Yeah,
I think the documentary is better than the movie, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I didn't like say. I definitely think it helps just to understand the whole story. And I imagine, like say, going back to that film festival when people were watching it for the first time, I imagine everyone there was thinking, I need to know more about this. What, you know, if you just saw that with no context, you're like, oh my God. And it's like, Chris, when we used to play in the band and we used to do the covers stuff, people didn't really care that it was us. They were just hearing songs that they remembered. You know, that was the thing that was, you know, that really worked, I think, you know, and people just love it. You know, oh, a bit of Oasis or a bit of Stones. Oh, I remember this. And, you know, so it's that. They would have been seeing that, remembering the original and just thinking, wow, this is amazing. You know, it's clearly done by kids. You know, it's not like a bunch of adults have filmed kids doing Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's obviously filmed by kids as well. And so, yeah, they'd have wanted to find out more. But not to put a Debbie Downer on it again, but do you not find it was weird? Because I thought one of the brilliant things about the adaptation is the effects. You know, some of the things like the whole melting face thing, which apparently was really quite painful and everything. But this guy, Jayson, he obviously he was never filmed with the others, was he? Even for the plane, no. Like he was filmed separately and almost like from afar. And so there's obviously something gone on there where they've just had a big falling out.
And there probably will be an explanation online, won't there? There'll be something to do with that. But that's what you get, though. I suppose these are adults. Things happen, don't they? Whether he was after a cut or there was something. I don't think they made a lot of money off it. Maybe later on they did, but there was something about it. Want there? You're probably right, Dave. Maybe it's that Chris, the whole thing. You're feeling the vibe you're getting off, and that he's a bit of a dick. Maybe it's him, the Kool-Aid, everything. You know, the other guys are doing it, and he's the main star in it of the whole thing. It was his sort of idea with his friend and that. So maybe it's that. I can't. Yeah. It doesn't go into it too much, but I just found it quite wholesome. The whole family environment of it. But yeah, Where Are They Now thing would be good, because this is from 2014, this documentary, isn't it? So it's been 11 years since then, so it'd be interesting to see what they're up to now, or what sort of movies they've proper done.
Yeah. I'd like to say, I don't know, you say about the studio, but I think they are just regular people with regular jobs now. And if you go to raidersguys.com, you can see they both got their own individual merchandise stores, but it doesn't look like something that's a massive money spinner.
Yeah. It's interesting though, isn't it? Great pick for Jack.
Yeah,
really good pick.
Before we get into our final thoughts, though, I mean, what did you reckon? So the guy, I mean, the plane that they built, I mean, they fucking spent a lot of money on that, didn't they?
Yes.
You're obviously having a lot of problems with the shoot and stuff. And I did like how it was switching to, you know, Spielberg having his problems shooting in the desert and stuff. So I thought that was quite good. I think one of the reasons I didn't love the documentary is the whole non-linear timeline, the way it was cut in between that plane shoot. I don't know. I don't know how you'd have done it a different way, but I just found it a bit disorienting. Like, keep going back to it. But what did you reckon to the special effects guy? Because he was, I couldn't work out, was he actually professional? You know what he did. He was like, you know, Now I'm telling you, this is serious. This is really serious now. But he seems to do like the schoolboy error. It's like if you set a firework off, don't walk back to it, if you think it's not gone off or whatever. And he does it. And I don't know, Chris, because I might be doing him a disservice, but I felt like when it blew up, I felt there was a bit of a wrestling vibe from it.
Yeah, like a grifter, like he's just blagged him. Yeah, I've seen this. You do it like this. You short, yeah. I think your description of a firework, that never go back to a firework, if he's not gone off. That's like that, isn't it? Like, or he's reading at it. Well, to be honest, Dave, let's be completely honest. It's the Chris Phelps of, I'll do the most basic Google searches, and now I'm an absolute expert. That I'd end up in that situation as some sort of, I've been in them situations, a la BBC Sports Personality of the Year. We're going to redefine it. Sat next to the head commissioner of the BBC, you're just like, what the hell am I doing
with your
here?
iPhone?
Yeah, with my iPhone. Yeah. It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Like, we're reshaping the BBC. Yeah, I want to come here to talk about our podcast. But anyway, thanks for that. The greatest thing ever.
Do a bit of Love Island and VHS stuff.
Totally out of my depth. So, but that's something probably I would do. And say, yeah, I can do that. Yeah, and then be like, holy shit. You know what I mean? Like, what am I doing here? I've been there and you've just laugh and go, why do you put yourself through this stuff? And I'm like, I don't know. I just say, yeah, I can do it because I think I can. I remember he's my dad's friend and my mum's friend from being a kid. And he's not with us now, sadly. But I know I've sold it before, and he was the guy who was the fucking lifeguard at Stretford Sports Centre and couldn't swim. And I'll never forget him ever saying to me this life advice, because I got fuck all off my dad, but I got this life advice off him when I was about 9 or 10 years old. Same guy who I told you the same story on here where he brought the fucking Speedos round, Dave, that were wet from the sports centre as well, because I needed some, because he used to get all the dodgy clothes and that years ago. And my mum was like, I need some swimming stuff for the kids, and he brought me these Speedos that were wet, Dave, that he took off the floor. My mum washed them and I wore them. It's fucking ridiculous. Anyway, I was expecting some knockoff pair or something and end up with some fucking, we'd have a lot of money. But anyway, he brought them, but he did say to me, whenever you go for an interview, I just remember my mum and dad laughing, going, how are you a lifeguard at a sports you can't even swim? And he was like laughing, going, I'm having lessons on the side. And I said, I've said it before, and he just said to me, always say you can do it in an interview. And I went, why? And he went, because someone's got to train you. Who's there? He said that whatever it is, this is like going back to the late 80s, and it's always stuck with me, Dave. And that's got me in so many positions, but also some really bad ones where I'm like, oh no, what am I doing? What I'm talking about, where I'm confident enough to go, yeah. And then I'm like, oh no. So maybe it's that. Maybe I've got off on a tangent, Anna, but maybe it's that. Maybe it's that sort of thing where he's just absolutely blagged it, or he's been a stagehand at a school play and saw like someone put something together, and he's put it on his CV. We've all put stuff in our CVs that are bullshit, haven't we? That things that we've done. So yeah, maybe it's that. But yeah, he had no idea, did he? The fire thing was like one of the worst. But later on as well, there was some other things where you're like, oh, this is dangerous. This is really dangerous. But yeah, I suppose it works for the movie, doesn't it? I suppose, like they say, you have to suffer for your art. So maybe it's that. Maybe he'd produce like Endgame or something nowadays. We're giving him a disservice. He could be one of the greatest Hollywood special effects guys. He didn't. This obviously is when he's cut his teeth, whatever direction he took after this.
Yeah. I somehow think not, but no, I thought that was amusing. It was good. Everyone was safe in the end and everything. But Chris, should we get into our final review?
Let's go. So, David, massive thank you, Jack, for picking this one. It really surprised me. I honestly thought, year of the stitch up, watching... If you hadn't said to me last week, watch the documentary, I'd have just watched this and gone, this is absolutely terrible. It's not one of the worst movies ever, but I was like, no, but I just think there's something about it. The documentary is amazing. I think that this is watchable again. I think the documentary is probably better than the movie, but like the whole context of it all is great. I can understand why it probably gets shown at these like fan cinema nights or whatever they are, these movies that are so bad, they're good type thing, which we always talk about. I'm going to put it in Hill Valley, I think, Dave. It's not somewhere where I'm going to go out and buy the movie adaptation or the documentary or whatever. However, I really enjoyed it more than I thought I would. It nearly went in Pleasantville, but I just think there's something about it. It's definitely watchable. If you can, spend the time to watch it or study it and you're really interested in the backstory of these type of movies, then I'd highly recommend it. And Jack, if you were trying to stitch me up, mate, didn't work because, I did actually enjoy it. So what about yourself, Dave?
Who are you and what have you done with my mate? Some sort of fucking body snatchers thing going on here.
I'm going to say, Dave, wait a minute.
Well, let me tell you what this is.
That was better than the fucking trailer acting, but there you go.
Honestly, I have no idea, right, how to rate this, because ultimately it is an attempted shot-for-shot remake. So I don't know. If I'm going to watch Raiders, I'll watch Raiders. It's like if you had the opportunity to watch a band, or you could watch a local pub tribute band, you're going to watch the actual band, aren't you? So, but I think what they have done is absolutely phenomenal. And the fact, I'm on Jason's side. Like, that whole fucking plane thing just seemed to be a ridiculous extravagance where they got a bit ahead of themselves. And I think miniatures would have absolutely done the job. And I think that would have sat better with the tone of the rest of the movie. The rest of the movie was on, a shoestring budget. And then you have this fucking massive plane that you built, custom plane that you built and able to blow up. So that whole scene, as great as it was to see it in the documentary and stuff, it just jarred with me a little bit there. But I think for that, I'm going to sit right in the middle of the seesaw. I'm going to stick it in Hill Valley as well. I think if I look at if I think about the Doomed documentary, the one for the Fantastic Four, I just feel like that documentary was put together a bit better. And like I say, they're switching back and forth the way they did from the plane shoot to the talking heads to the old film footage. But yeah, phenomenal achievement from these people. It's just a shame that they didn't stay in the film industry or TV or something. But I guess that makes it even more of a romantic idea. It's just this little side project, and then just these average people who, could be anyone, and they created this wonderful thing when they were kids.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with it. I mean, it probably makes it better that they didn't go on to bigger and better things in that industry.
But Chris, I wanted to leave it for Jack to have the last word. So actually, we've given all our thoughts there, but we're going to hear from the man himself.
So, I understand it's the year of the stitch-up, and there are so many bad movies out there I could treat you both to, but I've had this particular one buried in my back pocket for a while, and I think now might be the time to uncover it. I'm not sure how you'll feel, Dave. I think you'll appreciate the craftsmanship and dedication, whilst basking in the nostalgic glow of years gone by depicted in this truly one-of-a-kind production. Chris, I'm pretty sure, is gonna fucking hate it. It might just be the worst film he's ever seen. Of course, there's always the off chance, Chris, that it might give you a fresh new perspective. I first became aware of this stone-cold Cloud City masterpiece through the fantastic documentary, The Story of the Greatest Fan Film Ever Made. It made me laugh, it made me cry, it made me marvel at the whip-smart ingenuity of the intrepid filmmaking subjects. It's a real treasure. Then, a few years later, during lockdown, my eldest super son, then 8 years old, was in a deep obsessional phase with the original trilogy. And I mean, obsessed. He was dressing up like the protagonist, dragging me out to socially distant search for artifacts. He was fighting off imaginary Nazis. And of course, I loved every minute of it. During this period, after our latest watch of the OG, I introduced him to the documentary. A child raised right, he loved it. Thus, a new adventure was born. Exactly how can we find a copy of the actual fan film to view? It wasn't available to stream, it wasn't available to buy. I thought I found a copy through an international DVD retailer, but they sent me a copy of the documentary. It seemed like it was going to be an impossible task. But you know what they say? Fortune and glory, kid. They favour the brave. After an exhaustive 3-year search, I finally found an official copy for rental or purchase through the original filmmakers, who had realised that they could monetise their endeavour, no doubt spurred on by the success of the documentary and subsequent screening tour of the States. I clicked buy, and my download started. Then we watched. We ate popcorn, and we loved it. In fact, I think it's so good, it belongs in a museum. It signalled the end of an epic adventure for father and son. So now I share that same precious artefact and unique viewing experience with the pair of you. Chris, I know what you're thinking. Indy. Why did it have to be Indy? Well, this Indy all right, but not as you know him. Besides, you always knew someday he'd come walking back through your door. The rest of you, I know what you're thinking. You have chosen wisely. Oh, P.S. The documentary is currently available on Prime. I think I'd recommend watching the documentary first to give you a full understanding of the depth of the adventurous endeavour this intrepid group of friends undertook. I can't wait to hear what you think of the movie, friends.
That's brilliant. Really good. Really good. And I think the thing is as well, Dave, I said before I was doing my review, well, if this was a stitch-up, that just answers it. He's not done his job, Dave, because it's totally reversed. I was a believer, and I think you weren't. But anyway, thanks, Jack. That was amazing, mate. Really, really. And the fact that the levels to actually get hold of the movie itself as well, that's dedication straight to the filmmaker. So, yeah, I applaud you, mate. I applaud you. But, yeah, you've not done your job with this one.
It's got such a way with words, Jack, as well, hasn't it? I should have just played that at the beginning and then just said, yeah, we enjoyed it as well. But amazing stuff. Go and catch Jack. He's doing Back to the Filmography. Currently, he'd done all of the Jayson Statham movies, and he's currently going through the whole back catalogue of Matthew McConaughey, which is a journey, you know, if you're following that along at all. But I can't wait, Chris. I've got Wolf of Wall Street. I got my name penciled down for that one, so I can't wait. And actually, I didn't even realise, but I was watching. I finally watched Tropic Thunder. I thought, I'm going to have to watch this fucking shit. Well, what is it? And I didn't realise, but McConaughey's in that as well, so he's got that to look forward to.
Brilliant, brilliant. Now, Dave, it is a Patreon pick. This one is from our good Patreon, Gareth. It is a sequel to a movie. Now, the original movie came out in 1990, and I don't think we've ever come across this in our whole 6 years of doing the VHS Strikes Back, or the 7 years. The sequel was also out in the same year, Dave. It was distributed by Golden Harvest. It was directed by Robert Klaus. It stars, Dave, some of the greatest action actors ever. Frank Magna, Keith Cook, Richard Norton, and one of your all-time favourites, Dave, Cynthia Rothrock. So we are going to be watching the sequel to China O'Brien, simply named China O'Brien 2.
So we'll get into our wonderful trailers next week, of course. But yeah, I saw this one and I was just like, and I can't quite remember what I rated China O'Brien, but I seem to remember like that Keith Cook stood out for me. I don't think I'd ever really seen any of his stuff before, but he was like the drunk guy, wasn't he? And he was actually really good. So yeah, let's see. We're going back to a time when obviously sequels tended to be diminishing returns, so the budget's usually a bit less, and you know, we'll see how this one goes. But great pick for Year of the Stitch Up, certainly from my perspective.
Well, Dave, you say Keith Cook. He was also the guy out of King of the Kickboxers, Lauren Avedon's trainer.
Yes, he was.
Yeah. He is a very underrated martial artist, so we have covered him before. But I'm with you. I don't know where this is going to go. This could be peak year of the stitch up. I just know that you hate Cynthia Rothrock, China O'Brien, so I'm all in, Dave. I'm all in.
And again, I have to say, I have warmed to her a bit. Not warmed, softened to her, I would say. But I just remember as a kid when I was more into the martial arts movies, and I just didn't get it. You've got some fucking 6-foot meathead, and then you've got Cynthia Rothrock doing this screaming stuff, and it's like, I'm not having it. I tell you. So I still have that kind of inbuilt bias, I think, going into this. But yeah, I'll go into it with an open mind.
Well, Dave, if you close your eyes, them sort of noises could be a completely different movie for you if you use your brain. Anyway, moving swiftly on. A massive thank you to Jack and Gareth for next week. I'm looking forward to this. Yeah, brilliant. We've not done some martial arts stuff for a while, but if you do want to contact us, please contact us on the VHS Strikes Back at gmail.com. If you want to follow us on social media at VHS Strikes Back. If you do want to support us, please get over to patreon.com/the VHS Strikes Back. So the roll call of honor, a big thank you to Nick, Greg, Gareth, Mike, Lee, Helen, Dylan, Dan, Justin, Susan, Timothy, Matt, Hales, Ken, Lucky Lily Green, Herbs, Jack, Math, Blake, John Hammond, and Mr. Tony Farina. So thank you so much, guys. We do appreciate it. Amazing support for me and Dave, even if the movies are a little bit shaky, but that's the whole point, Dave. And with it being the year of the stitch up, I cannot wait for next week.
Well, Chris, go through my usual journey. I'm like, fucking Indiana Jones. Do I go back to some kind of 1939 type song or whatever? Where I landed is I thought, okay, these kids, they started this project in 1982. Well, also in 1982, Chris, came out Rocky 3. It was the Eye of the Tiger year, and I thought, well, that is just perfect. Just having this kind of the documentary and the movie and everything, you almost have the perfect montage. So I was thinking, right, training montage, bit of Rocky 3, 1982. That's where I set myself. So here we go. And I've called this one, The Room is on Fire. Get your headband on, get training, do some press-ups in the gym.
I've got my fingers in the air, Dave, the rock figure.
Yeah. No pain. No pain.
Rising up, back from school time, grabbed the cab, took our chances, went the distance, yeah, we're making it real, with the boulder made from dirt, tape and dreams. Took the fall, now I'm covered in dirt. Got the whip in the neighbor's yard. Still we roll, yeah, it's bound to hurt. But we're chasing that glory It's the Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's the thrill of the fight. Rising up to challenge our dreams higher. And we'll get on our MacGyver, 'cause we can't shoot at night. And we'll tell you what this scene really needs. Sparks for fire. Melting face out of the heat, hanging tough, staying hungry. They stack the odds, still we film in the street for the kill when the skin is the eye. It's the Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's the thrill of the fight. Rising up to challenge our dreams higher. And we'll get on our MacGyver, cause we can't shoot at night. And we'll tell you what this scene really needs. Sparks for fire. Grew up fast, straight to the top, and the guts to the floor. Shot the scene, yeah, we now get to stop. Just some kids and a whole big story. It's the Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's the thrill of the fight. Rising up to challenge our dreams higher. And we'll get on our MacGyver, cause we can't shoot at night. And we'll tell you what this scene really needs. Sparks for fire. This room is on 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 fire.
Dave, you missed the trick. That's a great song. At the end, you should have just had Mr. C going, pain. That's good. That's a good song, that. Love the guitar.
Yeah, that is probably the closest to an actual song, right? So if you notice a lot of the lyrics, a lot of the phrasing, so that all this room is on fire, it's the closest thing I can think to get to the Eye of the Tiger. But yeah, again, lots of fun with that one, and I do think this one would fit if you're training at the gym or something, bench pressing your personal best or whatever. You know, this one would fit. Yep. So thank you very much, sir. Thanks to all our listeners. Thanks to all our supporters, and we'll speak to you next time.
Bye.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over. What the fuck are we gonna do now? What are we gonna do?
Maybe we could build a fire, sing a couple of songs, huh? Why don't we try that?
We better get back, because it'll be dark soon, and they mostly come at night. Mostly.
I'll be back. That's not.
We came, we saw, we kicked its ass.
Wax on, wax off. Get to the chopper! One ring to go. All right. Ding, ding. Bust you up. Go for it.
Well, here we go. Ain't so bad. Ain't so bad. Ain't so bad. Come on. Ain't so bad. Ain't nothing. Come on. You must be crazy or something. I'm crazy. You just a stupid fool. Yeah, maybe you crazy. I ain't breathing heavy. He's a fool. He's stupid. I'll see you in 6 months.